Commander Velthar stood on the bridge of his massive warship, looking at the small blue planet spinning slowly in space. His yellow eyes glowed with satisfaction as he studied the reports about this primitive world called Earth. The humans living, they were so backward, so weak that destroying them would be almost too easy. "Look at this pathetic species," Velthar said to his second-in-command, Captain Nexara. He pointed at the glowing screen showing human technology. They still use chemical rockets to move between their planets. Chemical rockets. We stopped using such crude methods 3,000 years ago. The other alien officers on the bridge laughed quietly. Their ship, the Dominion's Edge, was 50 times larger than anything humans had ever built. Its weapons could destroy entire cities with a single blast. The humans had nothing that could even scratch their advanced shields. "Sir, our scouts have finished mapping their solar system," reported Lieutenant Kexmore from his control station. "The humans have a few small research stations near their outer planets, but nothing impressive. Their biggest military ships are tiny metal boxes that burn fuel to move around. It's almost sad." Velthar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. They had destroyed species far more advanced than these humans. This would be the easiest victory they had ever achieved. "The Empire Council wants us to make an example of them," Velthar announced to his crew. "We will show the galaxy what happens to primitive species who dare to exist in space that rightfully belongs to superior beings like us." He walked to the main display and pointed at a small dot near the giant planet Jupiter. "There, that research station. It has about 300 humans working inside. We will destroy it completely, then demand their surrender. When they see how easily we can kill them, they will give up without a fight." The crew began preparing their weapons. The plasma cannons charged with deadly energy. The quantum disruptors hummed with power. Everything was ready to demonstrate Zephyrian superiority to these backward humans. "Sir, we're receiving messages from the human station," Communications Officer Zarlin reported. "They're trying to contact their home planet. They sound scared." "Good," Velthar said coldly. "Fear is the first step toward surrender. Let them tell their friends about us. It will make our job easier." The Dominion's Edge moved closer to the research station. Through the view screen, they could see the small human structure, a collection of spinning wheels and solar panels that looked like a child's toy compared to their mighty warship. A few tiny human shuttles were docked to the station, probably trying to evacuate people. "Too slow," Velthar muttered. "Fire when ready." The plasma cannons unleashed their deadly energy. Bright beams of superheated gas struck the research station from multiple directions. The human structure exploded in a brilliant flash of light and metal debris. In less than 30 seconds, 300 humans were dead, and nothing remained but scattered wreckage floating in space. "Perfect," Velthar said with satisfaction. "Now we send our message to Earth." The Zephyrian ship's powerful transmitters sent signals to every communication device on the human home world. Velthar's image appeared on millions of screens across Earth. Televisions, computers, phones, everything that could receive a signal. "Primitive humans of the third planet," Velthar began, his voice cold and threatening. "You have just witnessed the power of the Zephyrian Empire. Your research station and everyone inside it has been destroyed. This is only the beginning." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Your weapons are useless toys. Your ships are slow and weak. Your defenses cannot protect you from our superior technology. We could destroy your entire world in minutes if we choose to do so." The alien commander leaned closer to the camera, his yellow eyes glowing. "You have exactly 72 hours to surrender completely. Give up all your weapons. Abandon your space stations. Accept that you are now property of the Zephyrian Empire. Do this, and we might let some of you live as slaves." His voice became even more threatening. "But if you try to fight us, if you show any resistance at all, we will make your death slow and painful. We will destroy your cities one by one while the rest of you watch. We will turn your beautiful blue planet into a dead rock floating in space." Velthar smiled his predatory smile one final time. "You have 72 hours. Use them wisely." The transmission ended. Across Earth, humans watched their screens in shock and terror. The message was clear: surrender or die. "Sir, we're detecting increased activity from Earth," Lieutenant Kexmore reported. "Military communications, government meetings, civilian panic, they're definitely scared." "Excellent," Velthar replied. "Within a day they'll be begging us to accept their surrender. This conquest will be easier than taking candy from a child." The Dominion's Edge and its escort ships moved into position around Earth, waiting for the humans to give up. Velthar was already planning how to report this easy victory to the Empire Council. He had no idea that he had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. Admiral Li Hyun sat perfectly still in his chair at the secret command center, buried deep beneath Seoul. Around him, dozens of military officers worked quietly at their stations, but their calm behavior was very different from what was happening on the surface. Above ground, news reporters were screaming about humanity's darkest hour. Politicians were making desperate speeches about trying to negotiate with the aliens. Millions of people were packing their belongings and running to underground shelters. But Admiral Lee knew something the aliens did not. Everything they were seeing was exactly what humanity wanted them to see. "Sir, the Zephyrians are listening. To all our regular communication channels," whispered Captain Park Min, leaning close to the Admiral's ear. "They're watching our news broadcasts and intercepting our military radio messages. They think they know everything about our situation." Li Hyun nodded slightly. On the main screen in front of him, they could see intercepted alien communications. The Zephyrian officers were laughing and celebrating. They believed the humans were completely terrified and would surrender very soon. What the aliens did not know was that every panicked military message they intercepted had been carefully written by human intelligence officers. Every desperate conversation between Earth's generals had been performed like actors in a play. The Zephyrians were hearing exactly what humanity wanted them to hear. "Status report from our hidden colonies," Li Hyun asked quietly, speaking so softly that only his closest officers could hear him. Lieutenant Kim So-young looked at her special computer screen that was invisible to alien sensors. "Fleet Admiral Choi Jae reports that all battle groups are ready and waiting. The Silent Thunder Fleet is in position behind Jupiter's moons. Admiral Wan's strike force is hiding in the shadow of Saturn. Captain Park's ships are camouflaged inside the asteroid belt. All stealth systems are working perfectly." Li Hyun allowed himself a small smile. For over 200 years, while Earth pretended to be humanity's only home, the real human civilization had been growing in secret throughout the galaxy. Hidden shipyards built massive warships inside hollow asteroids. Secret colonies on distant planets trained millions of soldiers and pilots. Advanced research stations developed weapons and technology that made Zephyrian equipment look like ancient museum pieces. The research station the aliens had destroyed near Jupiter was real, and the 300 people who died there were real humans with real families, but it was also the smallest and least important facility in humanity's vast hidden empire. The Zephyrians thought they had destroyed humanity's greatest achievement. In reality, they had barely scratched the surface. "How much time left on their deadline?" asked Captain Park Min. 58 hours and counting," replied Lieutenant Kim. "The aliens are so confident that they're not even being careful. Their ships are sitting close to Earth like they're already planning a victory parade." Admiral Lee studied the tactical display showing where the Zephyrian fleet was positioned. The alien ships were spread out around Earth in a pattern that would be perfect for intimidating a primitive planet, but terrible for defending against a real space battle. They had no idea what was coming. "Send another burst of fake communications," Lee ordered. "Make sure the aliens intercept our secret messages about how hopeless our situation is. Let them hear our generals talking about how our weapons are useless and our ships are too slow to escape." As his officers prepared the false messages, Li Hyun thought about all the preparation that had led to this moment. When humanity first detected alien civilizations expanding through their part of the galaxy, Earth's governments had made a crucial decision. Instead of announcing their presence and trying to compete openly with more advanced species, they would hide and grow strong in secret. For generations, human families had lived double lives. On Earth, they played the role of a single-world species just beginning to explore space. But their children often left quietly to join the hidden colonies, where they became soldiers, engineers, and scientists in humanity's secret space empire. Millions of humans lived and worked throughout the galaxy, but as far as any alien species knew, humanity was still trapped on one small planet. "Sir, our deep space sensors are detecting movement in the outer system," reported Commander Jin Woo from his monitoring station. "Something very large is moving through the dark spaces between planets." "The Zephyrians haven't noticed?" Lee asked. "No, sir. They're so focused on Earth and so confident in their superiority that they're not scanning the outer solar system carefully. They think they already know everything that's here." Lee Hyun nodded. The massive energy signatures moving through space belonged to humanity's true fleet. Thousands of advanced warships that had been built in secret over the past 2 centuries. These ships used technology that the Zephyrians had never seen before, powered by exotic matter engines that could bend space itself. "Maintain the deception," Lee ordered. "Send more fake distress calls. Make it look like we're trying to contact other alien species for help. Let the Zephyrians think they're winning." On the surface, Earth's leaders continued to play their parts perfectly. They held emergency meetings that the aliens could easily spy on. They made public speeches about humanity's desperate situation. They even started fake evacuation plans that made it look like humans were preparing to abandon their planet. But in the hidden command centers and secret bases throughout the solar system, humanity's real leaders were making final preparations for the most important battle in galactic history. The trap was almost ready. The 72-hour deadline was almost over. Commander Velthar stood on his ship's bridge, feeling very pleased with himself. His fleet of powerful alien warships surrounded Earth like hungry wolves around a wounded deer. Below them, the blue planet looked peaceful and defenseless. Soon the primitive humans would surrender, and he would return home as the hero who conquered an entire world without losing a single ship. "Commander, I'm getting some strange readings on our sensors," reported his technical officer, Lieutenant Kexmore. The young alien looked confused as he stared at his glowing control panel. There seemed to be unusual energy patterns coming from different parts of this solar system. Velthar waved his clawed hand dismissively. "Probably just their primitive factories shutting down. The humans are probably destroying their own equipment rather than let us have it. Fear makes species do foolish things." But the energy readings kept getting stronger. Kexmore's confused expression turned to worry, then to alarm. "Sir, these aren't factory emissions. Something very large is moving out there in the darkness between the planets." Before Velthar could respond, massive shapes began appearing throughout the solar system. One by one, enormous ships decloaked and became visible on the Zephyrian sensors. These were not the small, crude vessels that the aliens expected to see. These were sleek, deadly warships that were much larger than anything in the Zephyrian fleet. "Impossible," Velthar whispered, his yellow eyes growing wide with shock. "Our intelligence report said the humans only had primitive chemical rockets. Where did these ships come from?" The main view screen activated, and Admiral Lee Hyun's calm face appeared. He was standing on the bridge of an enormous human warship called the Terran Aegis. Through the windows behind him, hundreds of similar ships could be seen in perfect formation. Each one was bigger than Velthar's flagship. "Commander, Velthar of the Zephyrian Empire," Lee Hyun said in a steady, confident voice, "you have made one very serious mistake in your planning." Velthar's claws gripped his command chair so tightly that the metal began to bend. Around him, his crew stared in horror at the tactical display. It showed thousands of human ships appearing throughout the solar system. The small research station they had destroyed was not humanity's greatest achievement. It was barely worth mentioning compared to their real fleet. "You assumed," Lee Hyun continued, "that what you could see was everything we had. You thought Earth was our prison instead of our home base. You believed our intelligence reports because we wanted you to believe them." More human voices joined the transmission. Fleet Admiral Choi Jae spoke from somewhere near Jupiter. "For 200 years we have been expanding beyond your ability to detect us, building ships in hidden factories, training soldiers on secret planets, learning everything we could about species like yours who might threaten our future. Admiral Wan Yu's voice came from the outer edge of the solar system. Every time your scout ships passed through this area, we watched them. We studied your technology. We learned your weaknesses. We prepared for exactly this moment. Velthar felt cold fear spreading through his body as he realized the truth. Humanity was not a primitive species confined to one world. They were a vast galactic civilization that had been hiding in plain sight for centuries. While the Zephyrians thought they were watching a backward planet, the humans had been building an empire in the dark spaces between stars. Your reconnaissance mission saw exactly what we wanted them to see, Li Hyun explained. Earth remained visible and apparently primitive, while our real civilization grew in places you never thought to look. We have colonies on hundreds of worlds. We have factories inside hollow asteroids. We have research stations in dimensions you don't even know exist. Captain Kim Da's battle group emerged from behind the asteroid belt, their ships using technology that made space itself bend around them. Commander Park Su's stealth fleet appeared near Saturn, their weapons already charging with exotic energy that the Zephyrians had never encountered before. Admiral Jin's forces decloaked throughout the outer solar system surrounding the alien fleet completely. We have been watching alien empires like yours for generations, Li Hyun said. We studied how you conquered other worlds. We learned from the mistakes of species that underestimated you. But more importantly, we learned that you always underestimate species that appear weaker than you. The tactical display told the whole story in numbers that made Velthar feel sick. The Zephyrian Empire had sent what they thought was an overwhelming force to conquer a primitive world. Instead, they had walked into a trap set by a civilization that had been preparing for this exact scenario for over 2 centuries. The research station you destroyed held 300 of our people. Li Hyun's voice became harder. They died to maintain the deception that has protected humanity until we were ready to reveal ourselves. Their sacrifice ensured that you would make the mistake we needed you to make. Velthar looked around his bridge at his terrified crew. They had come here expecting to intimidate a defenseless planet. Instead, they had awakened something that had been waiting patiently for them to show their true nature. Welcome to humanity's real neighborhood, Commander, Li Hyun said. We hope you're prepared for what comes next. The space battle began and ended so quickly that Commander Velthar barely had time to give orders to his crew. One moment, his powerful Zephyrian fleet was surrounding Earth like conquering heroes. The next moment, half of his ships were floating in pieces, their metal hulls torn apart by weapons he had never seen before. All ships, return fire immediately, Velthar shouted into his communication device. Use quantum disruptors at maximum power. His weapons officer pressed the firing controls and the Dominion's Edge unleashed its most deadly weapons at the human ships. The quantum disruptors were the Zephyrian Empire's most feared technology. They could destroy entire cities with a single blast. No species in the galaxy had ever survived a direct hit from these terrible weapons. The energy beams struck the human warship Terran Aegis directly in its center. Velthar expected to see the enemy ship explode into burning fragments. Instead, something impossible happened. The deadly energy simply disappeared, as if the human ship had swallowed it like water absorbing into sand. What happened to our weapons? Demanded Captain Nexara, staring at the tactical display in shock. The quantum disruptors hit their ship directly, but there's no damage at all. Their shields are absorbing our most powerful attacks, reported the weapons officer, his voice shaking with fear. It's like our energy beams are hitting some kind of invisible wall that eats them completely. But the human weapons were not invisible walls. They were death itself. Strange beams of light shot out from the human ships, and wherever they touched Zephyrian vessels, the alien metal simply ceased to exist. Not melted, not burned, not torn apart. It just disappeared, as if it had never been there at all. Emergency. Retreat! Velthar screamed as he watched 3 more of his ships vanish under the human attack. All vessels retreat to hyperspace immediately. Only half of his fleet was still able to move. The other ships were either completely destroyed or so badly damaged that their engines would not work. In less than 5 minutes, the mighty Zephyrian invasion force had been reduced to scattered wreckage and desperate survivors. As the Dominion's edge limped away from the battle, Admiral Lee Hyun's voice came through the communication system again. His tone was not angry or excited like a warrior, celebrating victory. Instead, he sounded like a teacher explaining a simple lesson to a confused student. "Your quantum disruptors are impressive weapons, Commander," Lee Hyun said calmly. "We have been studying them for 60 years, ever since we first detected your empire expanding in this direction. We learned how they work and we built our defenses specifically to stop them." Velthar collapsed into his command chair, his body shaking with shock and disbelief. Through his ship's damaged viewports, he could see human vessels moving with smooth, deadly grace. They looked like metal sharks swimming through space, and they were completely undamaged despite the fierce battle that had just ended. "Sir," his communication officer called out in a panicked voice, "we're receiving reports from across the Empire. Human fleets have appeared in every major Zephyrian system at exactly the same time. Our home worlds are under attack right now." The news hit Velthar like a physical blow. This was not just a defense of Earth. This was a coordinated assault on the entire Zephyrian Empire, planned and executed with perfect timing across thousands of light years of space. Captain Kim Da's voice joined the transmission from her warship Soul's Pride. "Every world you conquered, every species you enslaved, every strategic position you thought was secure, we have been watching and planning for decades. We know the location of every Zephyrian base, every defense station, every hidden supply depot." Admiral Choi Jae's battle group was already fighting Zephyrian forces near their main shipyards in the Kepler system. Fleet Admiral 1 stealth ships had destroyed the quantum communication networks that connected the Empire's scattered worlds. Captain Park's strike teams were systematically capturing the fortress planets that protected Zephyrian trade routes. "Your mistake was thinking that advanced technology alone wins wars," Lee Hyun continued. "You never learned the most dangerous thing about humans. We don't just react to threats. We study them, plan for them, and prepare to defeat them across multiple generations." Velthar realized with growing horror that every contact between humans and other alien species had been part of a vast intelligence operation. Every trade agreement, every diplomatic meeting, every cultural exchange had been humanity secretly learning about their potential enemies. "For 2 centuries, while you saw primitive humans trapped on one planet, our real civilization was spreading through the galaxy like a slow-moving infection," explained Admiral Wan from his flagship near the Zephyrian capital world. "We built ships in places you never thought to look. We recruited allies from species you had forgotten about. We turned your own expansion against you." The reports kept coming in from across Zephyrian space. World after world was falling to human attacks. The Empire's mighty defense fleets were being destroyed by weapons they could not understand or counter. In a single day, centuries of Zephyrian conquest were being undone by an enemy they had completely underestimated. "The Zephyrian Empire is finished," Lee Hyun announced. "The question now is what happens to your people next." Velthar stared at the tactical display showing the collapse of everything he had believed in, knowing that his species' age of galactic dominance was ending forever. 3 weeks had passed since the battle that destroyed the Zephyrian Empire. Commander Velthar stood in the ruins of what used to be the most powerful military base in the galaxy. The great fortress of Zeph Prime, which had protected the alien capital world for over 1,000 years, now lay in twisted metal pieces scattered across the planet's surface. Velthar was no longer a commander of anything. His fleet was gone. His empire was gone. His people were hiding in underground shelters, waiting to learn what the humans would do with them. The proud Zephyrian race, which had conquered hundreds of worlds, was now completely at the mercy of the species they had thought was primitive and weak. A shimmering light appeared in the center of the destroyed command room, and Admiral Lee Hyun materialized as a hologram. The human leader looked exactly the same as he had during the battle, calm, confident, and completely in control of the situation. "The war is over, Commander Velthar," Lee Hyun said in his steady voice. "The Zephyrian Empire no longer exists as a political power. Your remaining worlds have 48 hours to make a choice about their future." Velthar's yellow eyes were dull with defeat. "What choice?" he asked quietly. You have already destroyed everything we built. What is left for us to choose? Integration into the Terran Confederation with full rights and citizenship, Lee Hyun replied, or continued resistance against forces that you now understand you cannot defeat. We are offering your people the chance to become part of something larger than what you lost. The fallen alien commander laughed bitterly. Integration? You mean slavery? That is what conquerors always offer to the conquered. No, Lee Hyun said firmly. Look at the reports from your former worlds, Commander. We are not enslaving your people. We are offering them partnership. Velthar had seen the reports, and they confused him more than anything else that had happened. On world after world, human administrators were working with local Zephyrian leaders to rebuild damaged cities. Human doctors were treating injured aliens in their hospitals. Human engineers were helping to repair the infrastructure that had been damaged during the conquest. This was not how conquering species usually behaved. When the Zephyrians had conquered other worlds, they had enslaved the populations and taken everything of value. But the humans seemed to be genuinely trying to help the people they had defeated. Why? Velthar asked, his voice filled with confusion. Why are you helping us after we attacked you? Why aren't you destroying us completely? Captain Kim So-young's image joined the hologram transmission from her ship orbiting above the planet. Because we learned something important by studying. Your empire and others like it, Commander. Conquered people who are treated badly always rebel eventually, but people who are treated as equals become loyal allies. Lee Hyun nodded. We didn't fight this war to destroy the Zephyrian people. We fought to stop the Zephyrian Empire from threatening other species. There's a difference between the two things. More reports came in as they spoke. On the former Zephyrian world of Cathara, local aliens were working alongside human engineers to build new schools and hospitals. On Velmora, Zephyrian scientists were collaborating with human researchers to develop better farming techniques. On dozens of other worlds, former enemies were becoming partners in building a better future. Your empire's biggest weakness was that it ruled through fear, explained Admiral Wan Yu, his voice coming from the Outer Rim territories where the last Zephyrian holdouts were surrendering without fighting. Fear only works as long as you're the strongest, but partnership creates loyalty that lasts for generations. Velthar walked to the broken window of the command center and looked out at his ruined capital city. In the distance, he could see human and Zephyrian work crews rebuilding damaged buildings together. Human medical ships were landing at hospitals to help treat the wounded. Human food distributors were setting up stations to feed hungry civilians. How long? Velthar asked quietly. How long were you planning this conquest? 237 years. Lee Hyun answered honestly. Ever since our deep space sensors first detected your empire expanding toward our hidden colonies. Every human born since then has lived their entire life preparing for this moment. The scope of human patience was staggering. While the Zephyrians had thought in terms of immediate conquest and quick victories, humanity had planned across centuries. They had prepared their children's children's children for a war that might never happen, but which they were ready to fight if necessary. Your species taught us something important, Captain Kim Da said from her position near the former Zephyrian shipyards. You showed us that the galaxy is full of aggressive empires that will eventually threaten peaceful species. So we prepared to stop all of them before they could become too dangerous. Admiral Lee Hyun's final words were delivered with the weight of absolute certainty. One mistake cost your empire everything, Commander. You assumed that what you could see was all that existed. You never imagined that a species might choose to appear weak while growing strong in secret. As Velthar watched former Zephyrian worlds peacefully joining the Terran Confederation, he understood that this was not just the end of his empire. It was the beginning of a new age in galactic history, built on cooperation instead of conquest. The humans had won by being patient, and now they were winning the peace by being generous to their former enemies. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.